Us now on our think tank this evening, criminal defense attorneys Titus Nichols and Jesse Law, and joining us from New York, attorney Bernarda Villalona and criminal defense attorney James Porfido. James, I want to start with you. Your reaction to this verdict. What stood out to you about what the jury decided in terms of Harvey's fate?
Well, the jury came back with the not guilties on the most serious counts, the predatory sexual counts, which were very surprising. But I think what that says to me, counts 1 and counts 3 of the indictment, were that Annabella Sciorra was not believable, and they did not find that to be credible testimony. So he was convicted of those counts, the 2 counts, which were less serious, less significant, but certainly the most significant counts that the prosecution was looking to convict Harvey Weinstein of. He was found not guilty. So I'm not surprised because if you look at the allegations, they date back to 1994, and they really would have had to tie all of this together, and it just didn't make sense, quite frankly, from a prosecution perspective. Having been a former prosecutor, prosecuting these types of cases, it's a very difficult prosecution looking back that far. Again, there were some inconsistencies in the verdict nonetheless.
Bern, let's face it, James, Judge Burke has done the defense no favors throughout this in most of his rulings. The defense team thinks they really have an opportunity on appeal. They also have thrown out the fact that they're going to work immediately to try to get an appellate judge to release Harvey Weinstein during the appeal process. That seems to me like quite the long shot.
Well, Ted, I don't know. There are a lot of appellate issues in this case. Quite frankly, these Mullineaux witnesses, which they were defined as, those 3 separate women that testified about prior bad acts, which we would call under Rule 404 evidence, under the federal rules of evidence, under New Jersey laws, rules of evidence, it's 404B type evidence where you have prior bad acts. This is a big grounds for appeal. Quite frankly, it's one of the biggest issues when you can't unring the bell. When a jury hears that Harvey Weinstein has committed these acts, not just with these victims that are, the part and the substance of the indictment, but also those separate victims are allowed to testify and say, yes, we in fact were victims of Harvey Weinstein as well. That's a big issue, quite frankly. And I think that that's an issue ripe for an appeal, and it may very well determine, and I understand there's other issues as well. With juror number 11, there were questions raised as to whether or not she had a predilection. Let's say she was
going to write a book.
Convict based upon her.
Yeah.
Right. She's writing a book, and it's about sexual predators.
Yeah.
Right. So, she was brought in separately by the court and voir dired separately. And quite frankly, she should have been dismissed from the jury. That is a huge issue in this case. And quite frankly, I think that this verdict will be overturned on an appeal, quite frankly, given the complexity of the case. Looking at the jury charge sheet, if you look at it, certainly the questions on Friday reflected the verdict today. They were clear that they had a verdict on 3 of the counts. Now we know they were not guilty on 3 counts and came back guilty on 2 counts, counts 2 and 5.
Jesse, James,
I think it's likely he will be released on bail.